Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is excited about the inaugural Art Tank at the Vision DC Summit hosted by Cultural DC. My name is Brandon Andrews. I lead a nationwide casting tour for ABC's Shark Tank, focused on bringing more diverse ideas to the show and also more diverse voices, which include the creative entrepreneurs that you'll be hearing from today. Has everyone had a good day here at Vision DC? You know, I travel all around the country doing casting calls. I meet thousands of entrepreneurs every year, and I'm never more excited to hear pitches from entrepreneurs than I am to hear pitches from them right here in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has a special entrepreneurial community and also a very special creative community, as we found out today. Does anybody want to shout out what's been your favorite artist or your favorite session that you've heard today at Vision DC? Shout it out for me.
Incubators.
Incubators. Anybody else? What's been your favorite session today? Source Festival play. Okay. Say it. Sheldon was great. Yeah. So a lot of people obviously know that DC is the seat of power for government. Some people related to that even know that DC residents pay taxes without proper representation in Congress, which we've got to fix. Some people may even know DC for go-go music. They know Chuck Brown, they know the Junkyard Band, they know Mambo Sauce, they know Black Alley, but DC's creative community doesn't stop with go-go music. Again, as we've seen today, there were incredible artists that run the entire gamut of creativity, and so I'm excited to, here in a few minutes, present to you several artists who are going to pitch themselves to create unique art installations at local DC developments that are being created by local developers. The first thing I want to do is give one more round of applause to Tanya and her team at Cultural DC for putting this together. This is not just the inaugural Art Tank 2017 here in Washington, D.C. This is the first time I've heard of a concept like this being put together, where you have artists, creative entrepreneurs, pitching developers. You guys are going to get to see something that no one really outside of the space gets to see: a negotiation between an artist, a creative entrepreneur, and a real estate developer, as they think about how do we marry the incredible art that can be created with the function that's needed in some of these shared spaces. So one more round of applause for the Cultural DC team, Tanya. They've been incredible to work with, and hopefully this is the first of many art tanks that we have right here in Washington, D.C. So without further ado, I want to bring out our developers. Again, these developers are in leadership positions at local companies that are developing new places and spaces in and around Washington, D.C. Each one of them has committed money, so committed funds to funding an art installation. And we're going to hear some pitches and do some matchmaking right on stage, which I think will be really interesting for you. So the first developer I want to introduce you to is Jim Abdo. Come on out, Jim, of Abdo Development. We'll have Vicki Davis from Urban Atlantic. Come on out, Vicki. Martin Ditto from Ditto Development. Stacey Mickelson from Artspace. Debbie Ratner-Salzberg from Forest City, Washington. And Michael Abrams from Foulger-Pratt. All right, now do we have a mic? Let me grab a mic. Oh, you have the mic. No, go ahead. So I want to give each of our developers here 30 seconds. Give us your name, the name of your company, tell us a couple of projects that you've worked on recently, and tell everybody how excited you are about hearing the pitches from the entrepreneurs today.
Very excited. Michael Abrams with Foulger-Pratt, and I head up our acquisitions. We're doing a lot of projects in the district, in some of the funkier neighborhoods across from Union Market. We have Press House and 3 or 4 things in Eckington, and neighborhoods that really are trend towards having arts incorporated into the project. So
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Debbie Ratner-Salzberg with Forest City Realty Trust. I'm president of the Washington and East Coast Division. We have some really exciting projects, the largest of which is The Yards, a 46-acre mixed-use development on the Anacostia River between the ballpark and the Navy Yard. And just a stone's throw from here, we have Elliott on 4th, which is our newest addition to our portfolio, which will begin with move-ins May 1st, a 365-unit apartment building. Before I turn over the mic, I want to thank you for inviting me to this today. We are known for placemaking, but placemaking, we've come to realize, is really all about art. Whether it's public art in the public realm, whether it's the lobbies to our building, whether it's the bridge or the tower at the Yards, art really makes our neighborhoods, art makes our communities, and art is what makes our buildings a home. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Stacey Mickelson. I work with Artspace Projects, who's based in Minneapolis. I had the great fortune of convincing them to let me leave those winters to move to DC. So we have 3 projects, 2 projects in the works in Washington, D.C., one in Brookland. If you know where Dan's Place is, I'll give a plug to Dan's Place. They are a strong and wonderful partner.
Yeah, give a round of applause to Dan's Place. Sure.
We truly wouldn't be there without them. And then the other project that we have is out on Route 1 or Rhode Island Avenue, just outside the District of Columbia in Prince George's County, Mount Rainier Artist Lofts. Here. Artspace has been busy over the last 2 or 3 years working with the folks in Montgomery County to put a building into service in Silver Spring, just south of the downtown core along Sligo Avenue. I'm happy to report that that project is in pre-planning and pre-development, and still working towards a closing date, but we think one is in sight. And then we are also now poking around in Arlington County with a vision of multiple sites. So keep watching.
Thank you.
I've got one. How's everybody doing out there? Having fun? Great. Jim Abdo, Abdo Development, DC-based company. We brought you the Arts Walk and everything that's happening over there at Brookland. We did that with our partners at Bizzuto, and some of the artists that are here today that are even competing are artists from the Arts Walks. We're really pleased about that. What else are we doing right now? We just built DC's first micro hotel called the Hotel Hive. It's located in the West End, and we worked very closely with Cultural Development Corporation to bring a host of artists into that project. We are 93 days old as DC's first micro hotel, and the Hotel Hive, I kid you not, go on TripAdvisor right now, of 140 hotels in the nation's capital, including 2 Ritz-Carltons, and the Four Seasons, and you name it, and Trump, the Hotel Hive is the #1 rated hotel in the nation's capital as I sit here right now. So, it goes to prove to you, art can make places special, and it is a big part of what we're doing. We're doing other projects around the city. Most of you know a lot of what we do, but we're delighted to be here, and we hire from within the communities where we work. 85% of our employees are DC residents, and we're very proud of that.
So really stiff competition on the developer side. I'm Vicki Davis, and I work with Urban Atlantic, and we've done a number of big projects in DC. One that we've been working on with Debbie for the last 10 to 15 years at Arthur Capper. But we've done very large-scale developments both east of the river as well as in DC proper. The 2 closest to here are what we called Sky House, now Lex and Leo. But most importantly for me, this morning, I just went to the groundbreaking for Walter Reed. So really excited about that. It's all about community. It's all about art. Cultural DC is our arts partner. I can see Caroline Kenny in the front row taking a picture. She's our head of development for that development. And we're here looking for some art for that development. So we're very excited about it.
My name is Martin Ditto. I cannot see many people, but really happy to be here. Ditto develops residential housing in DC, kind of the whole spectrum from the Oslo, which is a young person housing concept for people who want to live with their friends or people they don't know, maybe meet people in 3 and 4 and 5 bedroom units. And that's been a fun project for us. Up to projects like the Buchanan School, which is taking an old historic DC's like landmark school and turning it into condos, which are for Capitol Hill on the smaller side, which makes them, at least for Capitol Hill, more affordable. And then I guess the most exciting project that we're doing, at least relative to today, is we've gone after the Kennedy Street parcel for DC, which is a parcel of land that you could do anything with, but we proposed doing artist housing there. So so we're excited about that. There are about 10 different groups going after it, and something we've been interested in for a while, and it was an opportunity to do both affordable and specifically focused on artist housing. And that's been difficult in DC because people, a group in New York has actually proven that HUD will allow you to be exclusively artist driven. Mm-hmm. So it's an exciting thing. So if you guys have an opportunity and tell your ward council member in Ward 5, Brandon Todd, that we should build artist housing in Washington.
Well, you can tell these developers are fierce advocates for the projects that they're working on. Thank you again, not only for being here, but also for your commitment to making sure that the spaces you create reflect the communities that you go into, which is really important and not something that happens with developments all across the country and really all across the world. So this is how Art Tank will work. Each artist will come out here. They'll have 3 minutes to pitch themselves to this panel of developers. Now, because these developments are still in development, they're not going to be pitching specific projects, but they're going to be speaking to their body of work and also to what they might be able to put together with, again, some of these developers based on the projects that are currently in their development pipeline. So again, each artist will come out here, they'll have 3 minutes to pitch themselves, they'll have a couple of slides up to show you examples of their work. After that, our panel of judges will then have about 6 minutes to do Q&A with the artist, and we're going to push the Q&A towards each artist potentially getting a deal right here on stage. So again, you all will have a front row seat to seeing something that you really don't do until you do it. You don't do this unless you're an artist and a developer. You don't have the opportunity to see this negotiation, to hear how it actually works. And now all of you will be able to have the experience. And hopefully, I know there are a lot of artists in the audience. If you're looking to do installations, if you're looking to work with developers in the future, make sure to take notes today because I think everyone here will learn something. And hopefully, this will create more opportunities for local artists to work with developers, not just here in DC, but again, around the country and around the world, because DC has certainly a world-class creative community that's going to be on showcase today. All right? So judges, are you all ready? Ready. Okay, I believe our artists are ready there in the back. So the first artist to pitch in Art Tank 2017, again sponsored by Cultural DC, is Tim McLoraine. Tim, come on out.
For more than 10 years, I've been designing video art, and my work has been shown in a wide variety of contexts, from opera productions and live music events to gallery installations and public art installations. I've worked in a large scale. I've lit the stage of David Geffen Hall at Lincoln Center with video, and I've also done intimate shows of gallery installations, including one at the wonderful 39th Street Gallery here in the DC region. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to present a piece of video art for Art All Night DC. This piece was chosen as the kind of featured public art installation for DuPont Circle. It showed for one night, and in realizing this piece, I worked not only with the organizers of the event, but we also built a relationship with, who was it? It was historic DuPont Circle Main Street organization. And so together we built consensus with the management of the building to let them know what we were going to be using it for. But even more importantly, we developed a relationship with the property owner of the adjacent building. And that was integral for getting the technical requirements of having a rooftop access. That sort of thing. So you guys as developers, I imagine, are passionate about transforming space. And as an artist, I am very passionate about transforming space. The way I do it is by painting surfaces with light. So I propose today that we marry our passions and we create a dynamic and world-class experience for the greater DC region. There are various ways that we could do this. This is just another example of a piece of mine. We could achieve this goal together. There's a scale of how we could do this. On one end of the scale is a large video mapping event where an artist comes in, that would be me, and bring your building to life by projecting video on the facade. But there's also an emerging kind of trend right now to include video art in interiors of buildings. And that's often used so that when visitors or tenants are in your structure, they're kind of drawn into this immersive experience that kind of elevates their experience of being inside your structures. So I would ask of you, would any of you want to partner up and illuminate one of your creations here in DC?
All right, that's incredible. Let's give him a round of applause. So Tim, incredible job. You literally bathe these community spaces in light and color and design, which is a really unique thing. Martin, I know you had previously mentioned some interest in Tim's work. Do you want to kick us off with questions? Again, the judges will have a few first questions for Q&A, and hopefully we'll get a deal done right here on stage.
Sure. So, Tim, I spent some time when the Hirshhorn did their projection, I guess it was 2 summers ago, and watched how much technical knowledge was necessary for the exterior projectors.
Yes.
Because they get so hot and they're expensive, they can't get rained on.
Right.
So if it was going to be an exterior presentation, have you protected a projector and thought about how that needs to be done in a safe way?
Yeah, so the example I showed earlier for the DuPont Circle installation, it actually did rain that night. And so we had constructed a platform that the projector was on, and then we had a tarp system, because also there was a computer involved for this particular installation, and it was my computer. So I was very certain that we had all the equipment protected. Yeah.
If it was going to be a permanent exhibit, could we build something that could permanently protect it?
Yeah, there are companies that fabricate encasements for projectors, and these are for more long-term, for like, say, a light festival that goes on for like several months. And these are climate-controlled structures that are weatherproof, basically. So.
Questions from other judges? Go ahead, Jim.
You know, Tim, I have some interest in your work, and I have a project in mind for it. But and maybe this isn't a question that you can answer, but I'm going to try. A lot of the projects that I do are in defined historic districts, and they're oftentimes contributing historic structures within these historic districts. We all know that this is a city that's very nervous about signage and advertising, unfortunately, because I actually think that's a form of artwork myself, but in this city it doesn't seem to fly very well. Your artwork is fabulous. I like it a lot. I'm interested in it, but my concern is if I'm in a defined historic district with a contributing structure, is that something that preempts existing sign laws, or is it because it's art, is that something that I could make an investment with you and know that I'll actually be able to deliver on?
That's a good question, and I do believe that there actually is no, there are no laws on the books about projecting images onto buildings, because we've been seeing it a lot lately, like people are projecting onto buildings, and there is no kind of like law that serves them pulling it down. So, and that's more for like kind of protest or like, statements. So, yeah, so I don't know exactly, but I am pretty certain that there is no restriction on putting light onto the surface of a building.
And then one other question. I'm thinking of another building right now, same issues, except this one's different in that in order for you to project, this is a freestanding structure where I don't have a rooftop of a neighboring building,
Right.
but I do have public space. Have you ever had any experience in working within the public realm to be able to put your equipment onto public space to be able to create your artwork?
Yeah, not formally. I've done it kind of rogue projections, but that is not something that I actually have professional experience doing.
So we'd both be taking a little risk then,
Yeah, but
wouldn't we? I like that.
it could be
Okay.
worked out, I'm sure.
Good. Right on. Good answer.
Go ahead, very, very quickly if we have other comments.
Okay, quickly. I have two questions about it. One involves surface and the other involves longevity.
Right.
So what type of surface do you need in terms of a building to project upon, and can you project on water? So that's my surface question.
Yes, so you can, as long as there is a reflective aspect to the surface, it will reflect the light. As for windows, there are cheap methods for hanging scrim or different theatrical material that would catch the light, and that would also be transparent when there's no light on it. As for water, there are different ways to project on water. Just depends on basically the lighting around the water, and also kind of how much vibration is in the water. Say if you create a water screen, that becomes completely reflective.
So I love your art.
Thank you.
But I think that the one thing you showed us was up for, was it one night?
One night, I think it was 5 to 6 hours. It was a long night.
What happens to it, and is it possible to project longer or over a series of days or weeks?
Yeah. It all is just a matter of the availability of the equipment, the electricity, the site. But things can go up for a very long time. There are like festivals where things are up for months, and so it is a possibility.
Okay. And Vicki, very quickly.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the technology you're using, because I think all of us have properties that'll be around hopefully for a lot of years. And so you're hearing a theme of longevity. I want to ask you about your images. I want to ask about, your projection, and do you see changes happening that's going to make it easier, and where do you come up with your images, and can you do changing images?
Oh yeah, so there are multiple ways to address that. As far as I design my own imagery from different sources, things I shoot myself or things I find online. And then there is the, equipment longevity. We could talk about that further, but it's mainly, with lamps, say, for a projection. Like that's the one part that you just need to kind of budget in replacement lamps, I would say, as a short answer. Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've heard from our judges, who would like to work with Tim to create, to again bathe their space in light and design?
I'd be interested in working with Tim.
Okay.
Great.
Anyone else? Okay, looks like we have a deal.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks.
So Tim, stay up here one second. As previously mentioned, these developments are still, again, being developed. So we're not sure what the finished product will be, but Tim will be working with developers over the developers over the next coming months and years to really build out and put together something. We look forward to seeing the final product. And as an FYI, the developers have committed funds to these projects, so we definitely look forward to seeing the finished product. Tim, thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
So the second artist to pitch in the 2017 Art Tank, again sponsored by Cultural DC, is Nekisha Durrett. Come on out, Nekisha.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, developers. Thank you, Cultural DC. I am Nekisha Durrett. I am an artist, illustrator, and designer based right here in Washington, D.C., where I'm proud to say I was born and raised. My parents are here in the audience, so I just want to give a shout out to Mom and Dad. So for nearly a decade, I've been producing award-winning, large-scale public art installations. My work is peppered across the city, from iconic landmarks such as the Martin Luther King Memorial Library to my latest project, which is a 650 square foot wallpaper graphic that will be installed in the soon to open brand new West End Library. My work has been also exhibited across the country, from New York to Los Angeles and a few cities in between. Another current piece will soon be installed in Miami, Florida, and it's probably one of my most complex projects to date. It combines 750 square feet of steel and aluminum with 100 linear feet of neon tubing. As you can see, my work is large scale. It is bold, it's colorful, and it's playful, but yet thought-provoking. My work is inspired by popular culture and also the aesthetics of advertising and the sleekness of commercial graphics. I am also very much interested in the ways in which public art can spark dialogue and engage with communities in really unexpected ways. And like you, developers, I'm also interested in transforming urban public spaces, reimagining the ways in which art and design can transform space. I love what I do. Once I have an idea that I'm really passionate about, I will go to any lengths to make sure that that project is brought to completion. My passion about my work and also my solid work ethic has been celebrated by renowned developers like J.R. Lynch, acclaimed restaurateurs like Jamie Leeds, and of course, leading arts organizations like Cultural DC. So what I would like to do for you is to produce an original, large-scale wallpaper graphic interior or an exterior hand-painted mural. Does that sound like something so you guys might be interested in? I don't know.
Well, great job, Nekisha. Thank you so much for, one, creating these incredible installations and for sharing with us today. Thank you all for giving her a round of applause as well. Michael, you have that look in your eye. You look like you enjoyed
We have to stave off the competition on this one, I think.
Yeah, kick us off with some questions.
So, Nekisha, I know one of the first works that you did was actually a commission for Cultural DC.
Yes,
in
it was.
Petworth.
Yes.
And so, how long ago was that?
That was my first public artwork, and that was about 9 years ago.
Okay.
And I don't think, actually, it's not pictured here.
I don't see it up there.
Yeah, it's not pictured here.
But so how long? So what is the life of one of these works that are
Well,
outside and exposed to the elements?
What's interesting about the piece that you're talking about, and if just in case those of you who haven't seen it, it's a 12 by 24-foot vinyl banner that was installed on the side of a Jared Lynch development called Three Tree Flats on Georgia Avenue. And that piece was actually only intended to be up for about 5 years. And so now it's starting to fade quite a bit, so I've been back in touch with them to replace it. Because vinyl banners are the ink and the material is somewhat UV resistant, but only up to a certain point. So it's something that would have to be refreshed at a later date.
Okay, so is the work
If
on-
it's exterior, yes.
Right. So is the exterior work on vinyl, or is it actually physically painted onto?
It's digitally
Yes.
printed on vinyl, and it's attached to the building with grommets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And so how much would a work that size be in today's? To be negotiated.
Well, I will say it like this: my artist fee for that project was $25,000,
Okay.
and that was my artist fee. That didn't include the installation, the renting of the cherry picker, and the digital printing. It didn't include any of those
Right.
things.
Okay.
Yes.
Good to know.
right.
Still interested?
Okay.
Maybe a little negotiation, but
If Michael wanted
great.
that same piece, but he wanted it actually painted on like a brick wall of one of his cool things that he
Oh.
has going on, is that
Yeah.
possible?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't work alone on projects like this. For a hand-painted mural, I would do a great deal of the work myself, especially the file prep that's involved with stenciling and all of those things. And I would be on site to oversee and also to paint. But I would have a crew also of probably, depending on the size of the mural, maybe one other artist or two.
One more quick question from our judges, and then I'd love to hear who's interested.
As the building owner, what is the maintenance obligation of that? You said you went back to the first site that you had done, or that,
Yeah.
and asked them to refresh it, or,
Oh, no, they came to me, yeah.
okay. What if the building owner, after 10 years, decided that he or she did not want to go forward? Is there an opportunity for the developer to take that off of the building? or-
Absolutely. Yeah, as I said, it was only, the agreement was only 5 years, so he
Okay.
can take it down whenever he likes, but I guess Jared really loves it, so it's still there. He also, just being such a patron of the arts and everything, had the foresight to plan to have sort of a bezel installed on the wall that would house the work. So, he kept all of that in mind so that the piece could be removed later and maybe replaced with, advertising for the property, or which actually was there before the artwork was there.
Is that, and then the last question that I had, with regard to the printed piece as opposed to painted brick, could it be printed out and then attached to a superstructure, if you will, that then is attached to the building?
Absolutely, yes. Anything's possible.
Awesome. More quick question, Vicki?
I want to ask you about your images,
Yes.
because they, to me, look like they could end up being very iconic kind of
Yes.
images that help with branding. And I wanted to know how you come up with them. Is it yourself, or do you do that together with your clients, or how does that work?
All of the works that are represented here, I pretty much come up with myself. I've got all kinds of crazy stuff rolling around in my head, and it just kind of comes out. I can't.
It's incredible. So no shortage of ideas should you
Yeah.
want to work with Nekisha, it sounds like.
That's correct.
Okay, so now that we've heard from our judges, who's interested? It sounds like a couple of people may be interested. Who's interested in working with Nekisha?
All right.
Okay, you are? Anyone else? Both of you are interested in working with her? Okay. Now, as an FYI, these judges, our developers, have made an initial $5,000 commitment to fund an art installation in one of their spaces. Now, they have some flexibility to work things out amongst themselves, but just again, as an FYI, 5K is going to be the floor that we're working with for these projects. So I guess first question is, Nekisha, do you have the capacity to do 2 projects and potentially work with both of these developers?
Absolutely. I think it was just, it would just all be in the scheduling. Yeah, that was totally doable.
Okay.
Totally doable.
And the other question now for you, Michael and Stacey, is does either of you want Nekisha enough to not allow anyone else to work with her? Are either of you greedy? Looks like both of you are probably amenable. Looks like both of you are amenable. So if no one else wants in on this, looks like Nekisha, you will have 2 projects, so working with Michael and also working with Stacey. So congratulations.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And again, as I mentioned earlier, these developments are still in progress, so Nekisha will work with these developers in the coming months to figure out how the installation will work, what the size will be, etc. And we definitely look forward to seeing the finished product. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Look forward to working with you. Look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed the first 2 pitches in Art Tank 2017. I'm about to bring out our 3rd artist to pitch this panel of developers who have again committed to putting art installations created by local artists in their new developments. Our 3rd artist to pitch in Art Tank 2017 is Charles Bergen. Come on out, Charles.
Next slide, please. Great. Great, thanks. Hi, thanks, Brandon, jury, audience. My name is Charles Bergen, and I'm a sculptor and a public artist. I'm a native Washingtonian. Before I went into public art full time, I had another career as an artist, as an architect. So I was a commercial architect, really for the last 15 years of my 25 years as an architect. I'm older than I look. So what that means is a number of things. One, I have a pretty good sense of technical demands and durability and how to figure those things out. I understand the schedules for these developers because I actually worked for some of these companies. And the other thing it means that I understand the notion of team. The developer is a team, but also my team, my design team. I have a really excellent urban historian, Mara Cherkasky, who couldn't be here today, but she's done a lot of the historic research for the heritage trails here in DC. So for example, I collaborated with Mara on this, the Capitalosaurus Chasing a Falcarius, which is a piece on Capitol Hill. And it'll also have graphic designers and engineers, a spec writer who I go to when I really have a tricky demand. So it's a large team of folks that I can draw on. And what I wanted to do was just to tell you, typically our goal is to really drill down in a community, in a neighborhood, and connect with its history and its culture and its spirit. And that's why the work is also different, because the communities are different. And I just want to go through the pieces that I have here. I have 6 pieces, and really tell you, what they cost and how many of these you could get for $5,000. And then and tell you a little bit about them. So this Capitalosaurus piece is a fanciful piece. It's at 1st and F Street, northeast. It's part of the southeast. It's part of the Alphabet Animal Project. It's a Capitalosaurus, which is the state dinosaur of DC, which is the big, nasty Tyrannosaurus Rex type figure, chasing a Falcarius, which is a flightless feathered dinosaur. So it's a nonsense piece, but it's a historical piece, and it tells you this is where they found Capitalosaurus bones. In this area when they were digging for sewer pipes in the 1890s. So that was my first public art piece about 3 years ago. The Chinatown piece is a much bigger piece. It's our largest to date. It celebrates Chinese culture and the dragon dance. There are a lot of Chinese holidays, and this holiday is the one that brings all the people who've moved out to the suburbs back to Chinatown. So it really celebrates that aspect and was a very popular project. The next project, the lobster down here, is in New England, and it's made out of wood, actually from my parents' front yard, a Y-shaped tree, and then some found copper. So the Caplosaurus, you could get, these cost $450 to make. You could get 6 or 7 of these to brand a project with. For the Chinatown project, that's preformed thermoplastic, but you could use, for example, pavers for your porous pavers for your stormwater, and I could do a design for you and price it for you and work with a civil engineer for about $5,000. This project is $5,000 with a wood. I have a new wood which lasts 30 years. It's a Norwegian wood. And then these other projects, get out the way here. On the upper left here, I know I'm almost out of time, is 18 medallions, 24-inch medallions that tell the history of River Terrace, which is a community in DC, in Anacostia. And these, 4 or 5 of these medallions would come for $5,000. This project at Dance Place, near my studio, is a series of bike racks. And it spells out, it also acts as signage that you don't have to get permitted. So it's art on 8th. So it tells us, it gives it identity. I love the Dance Place building, but they really needed some color, and so this goes in front, and the kids love playing on it. This is obviously staged, but the kids do love playing on it. And then this project down here has yet to happen. It's a really good rendering, but it's 12th and Rhode Island, some great big oak leaves. Scarlet oak is the state tree of DC, and they're 4 foot by 9 foot. You could get one of those oak leaves and some design for $4,000. But it tells the history of that neighborhood with the cardinals, which refers to Catholic University, and then the birds and the squirrels that spread the oak leaves.
That's incredible, Charles. Let's give him a round of applause. All right, so Charles, you created that crosswalk in Chinatown that we walk across every day?
Yeah, it was a team effort,
It's incredible, incredible stuff. All right, so I know a couple of the developers, maybe Vicki, had mentioned she had some interest in you. You want to kick us off with questions, Vicki?
Sure.
I'm just texting Caroline to make sure that we have room for more than one artist in our budget. So for Walter Reed, I was intrigued by what you said about a history trail, because we're thinking about one of those, and I haven't done much more than think about it as something that we'd really like to do. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Mara did a lot of Mara used to work full-time for Cultural Tourism DC, so she did a number of the history trails in DC, and those are historic texts and images. But one thing, so that would, and basically for River Terrace, we have the historic text, but instead of using historic photographs, we have art. And so that tells the history. This is the stork, which is the mascot for the elementary school. And we have really artwork that talks about 10,000 years ago to the present. So it has some of the veterans who served in World War II. It has references to churches, the playgrounds, but also the early Native American settlement, which was on the site. So we'd love to do that, and maybe they could be be bike racks or functional art. I mean, the thing about the functional art is that you use dollars that, it's sort of like using your landscape budget to also do your stormwater. So this is, you need to have bike racks, but why not spend a little bit more and get some art as well? So,
Thanks. I think that's great. I have one other question.
Sure.
We're thinking about an arts center on the site.
Sure.
We have an area with some historic buildings, but we have a road that goes in the middle.
Okay.
And we've been thinking about a little area there
Sure.
of a way to tie it together as an art and worker space kind of an area. Do you have anything that you could think about there? Because your paving thing seemed really interesting to me.
Sure. I mean, that's a great way, again, you're spending money there anyway. The Chinatown project is something called preformed thermoplastic, which is the same type of striping that they use in the streets and the crosswalks, except for it's not reflective. That has a 4 or 5 year durability cycle if it's not cut up. But if we were to work with your pavers or colored concrete or stained concrete, you'd have a much longer term durability with that. If you're just in the pavement, and you could also use railings and metal work fairly effectively.
Incredible. So he can build it to last. So one more
Thank
quick
you.
question from our judges. Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
It wasn't so much a question as a statement. One of the reasons why I'm interested in the work that you do is,
Sure.
one, we own the building at Brookland, the Artspace
Okay,
building across,
yeah,
and so we
yeah.
love and see and appreciate your work every day. We are about to do a project in Silver Spring, and there's a similar problem on the front side of the building where we are being asked to produce an art park with no other definition than that name.
Sure, sure.
And so I thought something like this, and with some more thinking through with my team, probably help us come up with that design and how to do that best.
Sure. Yeah.
Great.
It depends on what your
Yeah.
programming is, too, for that park. Yeah.
So Charles, I got to ask you,
Sure.
did you cut down a tree in your parents' front yard to make a lobster?
No. This was a junk tree. You know the tree of heaven that's really wet wood? And it was, my parents have a house where the driveway goes underneath the house. And so the wall was coming down. They cut it down. But it...
Kind of making me a little nervous if I hire you, you're going to start, doing some landscaping on my property.
Well, as
Great
long as
stuff.
you don't cut them
It's
down.
great.
Yeah,
Seriously. And I love the menu with the prices you're
Sure.
throwing out.
Yeah,
You're a natural. You're amazing. How much were the bike racks again? How much were those?
So what I do is, if I don't know how to make...
No, I'm serious. I really want to know.
They're $650 a piece,
Okay.
plus my design time.
Okay.
So that's
whoa,
made by-
whoa, hey.
So if you wanted...
Hold on. It doesn't work like that
Yeah.
with the developers.
So,
okay?
for that set, 4 to 5 bike racks would be within your $5,000 budget. It depends on how elaborate you want to make them.
Fair enough.
We could do 10 if they're very simple.
I'm a simple man,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they could be very simple.
So
Okay.
one of the things I do is I use fabricators who really have a lot of experience doing this. So Deardourff Bike Racks made this. So I designed them and then they made them. So it comes with a warranty. I know it meets code. I know it's kid safe. So that's one of the things that I'm careful about.
When's the last time you bought a piece of art with a warranty on it?
Well,
That's great.
Developers will ask you for those things.
Yeah, so really quickly, and then I want to
Yeah.
move forward.
The other idea is, beyond bike racks, do
Sure.
you create elements for seating? Because part of the call from the neighborhood and the county is
Sure.
to create a place for people to gather. And bike racks certainly is one element of that, but seating, tables, benches
Sure.
is something we could do.
Yeah, and one of the things you can do is to use standard elements, standard benches, and then swap out the backs. And for example, do water jet caught art pieces on the back. So you have standard elements and just spending some extra money for certain pieces, parts of them. Yeah, you can do that with the playground equipment too.
Awesome. So now that we've heard from our judges, who's interested in working with this talented gentleman to my left? Like Vicki?
I think all of us are.
Definitely count me in.
Okay. So definitely Vicki, and then definitely Stacey as well. You're interested in working. Anyone else interested? And I guess the other next question is, Charles, do you have capacity to be able to work with 2 developers?
Yes, I always work on multiple projects.
Okay.
I have a lot of employees sort of work remotely. I have a guy who used to work for me. He's down in Argentina, so he does drawings for me overnight, and it's definitely possible.
Okay, incredible. And the last question, of course, for our judges, I have to ask: is either one of you greedy? Either one of you want to work with him bad enough to outbid one of the other judges on this?
No, because I want to work with her to choose them.
Well, there you go. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
And then, give him before you head off. All right. So We are halfway through our artist for Art Tank 2017. Really excited to see these deals being done. A lot of this is being worked out right here on the stage in front of your eyes. Really interesting questions, hopefully again, for the artist in the room. Take notes and take some things away so that when you are pitching yourself, when you're pitching projects in the future, you'll know what conversations to have with folks, have with developers, or have with other folks who are controlling public spaces where you can come in and do your art installations. The next artist to pitch in Art Tank 2017 is Joseph Corcoran. Joseph, come on out here and wow us.
This is a little intimidating, a little humbling. I have to say I'm very jealous of everything that you guys do, because if I could be reincarnated, I would be Frank Gehry. You work on a very large scale. So my name is Joseph Corcoran, as you see here. Yes, there is a street in DC named after me. I just want to get that out of the way. I use that a lot around here. So I took the road less traveled, literally. A little bit about me is I'm a former naval officer, went to the United States Naval Academy, studied mathematics and engineering. I get some of these materials, some of what the developers do. In my studies in math, I really honed in on studying the patterns in our natural world, and really was interested in where those patterns went awry and became chaotic. And I really further that investigation with my art. Okay, so I was commissioned as a naval officer. I spent a lot of years in Malta and in Italy, where I really saw glass making firsthand. It's really a show over there if you haven't been there. And I wanted to try it when I got back. So I did so, and I fell in love with the medium. Pretty immediate, and spent many years making really bad bowls, really bad stemware. I have a lot of vases with holes. I don't know where my wife is, but she'll attest to that. We should have a collection. So spent a couple years after that really trying to get it right. Taught for a while at DC Glassworks, and then I started to show. Started selected group shows, started solo shows, and started showing in California, New York, art fairs in Miami. Really started to make big scale work. And if you've seen my work, it's about these patterns. So I want to talk about my process real quickly. I'm not a big process guy. I think it's it's whatever happens at the end that's important, but I think it's important here. I start with molten glass. I make things, I fabricate them. The craft is still alive. I form these sculptures with my hands and with tools, with torches, and it's really a process of reheating and working with the glass and reheating and then annealing the glass. Now that process, same process, the activity there and the energy there transforms into my final sculptures. And these are some of my forms that you see in front of you that are really kind of inspired by the medium itself. The medium is very alive, it's very dynamic, and that's how, at least what I try to do in my own work, is keep it that way. And I work in all kind of different styles. So I work in solid glass. The red piece has a lot of solid forms in it. I do a lot of mirroring, upper right forms. I do a lot of neon, and that neon is really to represent my blown forms and to really present them in a different way, and then really try to push that dynamic nature of glass and the transparency and the opacity. So my goals in creating art in general, it's not about the whoops, there we go. There we go, thank you. My goal in creating art is not just about creating a connection with people, creating a connection with, with the audience. My goal in creating art is about creating spaces. I want to be part of spaces. I work really hard to put my art into lobbies, into outdoor venues, into common areas where those spaces flow from one to the other. They flow in the form of color, they flow in the form of form, and really in the form of scale. A lot of my work is pattern-based. It can be scaled up or down to fit a specific site. Now, my work now is about 50-50 residential, commercial. I do a lot of work with interior designers, do a lot of work with corporate art consultants, and these are all some of my most recent work. I'm working this middle piece is a neon piece. It's my own blown forms are neon. I'm working with a landscape architect in Rockville for this is an outdoor piece. I'm working with other artists as they paint, and then I put my forms on top of that. And then I work from the ceiling, from the floor, or from the wall, whatever makes sense for your space. Now I'm creating experiences. I want people to remember the spaces, like the way that they remember going to DC and seeing the monuments. That's my goal.
That's incredible.
Once we get started.
That's incredible. Give him a round of applause. Good job, man. Good job. So Joseph is definitely a great example of the incredible work that many of our men and women in uniform do after they leave the military. So thank you again for your service. Give him a round of applause. All right, now who is interested in working with Joseph? Who wants to kick off the conversation here?
Not all at once.
I think you're a natural fit for Walter Reed, especially since you're a veteran, so thank you for that. I'd like you to talk about your neon a little bit, and I know you shared a little bit with me before, but I think it's very interesting for people to hear about the neon and the glass. And I'd like you to talk about indoor and outdoor installations if you can.
Sure, absolutely. So neon, I've really gotten into because of the glow of glass. Glass is the transparency and the brilliancy of it, and it doesn't really show it without light. And I want to create that light in a lot of situations. So 2 ways that I do neon today. I have a neon shop, and I do the neon tubes and illuminate my forms that way. But in this case, in this middle piece is called Reaching, I illuminated my blown form, and I put neon in my blown forms. And I think that that's something that technology is really catching up to art. And that not very many people in the world do. It's a different type of glow. It's not as bold, but it's also a very nice light, and it's very vivid at night.
When you say you put neon in, are you wiring up through the stems?
I am.
And then then the bulb itself is filled with neon.
Absolutely.
And that then glows.
That's right.
That's beautiful.
That's right.
It really is.
Yeah.
I hide all of that very well.
So speaking of hiding it, how do you mount that piece?
That's all mounted from a base. You don't really see it, but it has a pedestal, and that pedestal is only 6 inches by about 3.5 wide, 6 inches tall, and all the wiring and all the transformers are in that base. So, go ahead.
It can stay outside.
It can stay outside. So this, in the case where I do it as an outdoor piece, we are creating a base, and then we're cementing over that, creating an access point for that.
And do you worry in an urban setting about your glass breaking?
I don't. My glass is very durable. This is not Venetian stemware. This is a 1/4 of an inch thick glass. Now, things break. It's glass still, and I can replace. That's the great thing about my work is I can replace one part very easily.
So if what I would consider to be the floral piece broke the top, you could still repair the...
Absolutely, yeah.
And how much does a piece like the middle piece cost?
That is a $20,000 piece that I'm doing with Rockville. It's 10 feet by 10 feet.
10 feet by 10 feet.
Yes. Okay. So again, scaled up or down to suit your needs and your space.
Okay.
Okay. One final thing, Vicki, looks like you have.
So the first building we're delivering is for formerly homeless veterans and for affordable seniors housing. Do you have something that you think would serve that particular population well and perhaps create a great sense of space and place for them.
Absolutely. I think that what comes to mind is tranquility, and something that it could help them, and just, I mean, I think in general help. My work creates a sense of just meditation sometimes, and the lines and the forms. And I want that to come across and be communicated, that it's a place where they feel comfortable. It's a place where they feel safe. So absolutely.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, so now that we've heard from our judges initially, would love to see who's interested in working with Joseph. I know, Vicki, you said you are. Is anyone else interested in working with Joseph? All right, well, Vicki, looks like you have a deal. Joseph, congratulations. Oh, Joe, shake her hand real quick before you leave the stage. Incredible. All right. So our next artist to pitch at Art Tank 2017 is J.D. Deardourff. J.D., come on out here.
This is exciting. I'm J.D. Deardourff. I'm an artist, and there's so many people I need to thank, but most importantly, I need to thank my mom, who's out here somewhere. There she is. Give her a hand. She's the best. Thank you for everything, but especially thank you for preserving this portrait of me up here on the left. That's the first piece of my portfolio that I'm going to share with you guys today. That's self-portrait, marker on paper, 1992. And you can see the influence that comic books were having on my work from an early age with the speech bubble. If you guys can't read that, it says, boys are sometimes good, but mostly stinky. Which I think still holds true. Hopefully I've changed to mostly good and only sometimes stinky. But to be honest, not much has changed between these two things. When I was growing up, I was super into comic books and just in general a huge nerd. And I'm somewhat embarrassed to admit that I remain a huge nerd, not just for comic books. Thank you, all the nerds out there. But not just for comic books. It's for all the things that I'm into, that I'm interested in, I think share the idea of like imagination and fantasy, that there can be something more than this, that we can be more. That shy nerd in your class is a superhero. That maid is a princess. The things that make us different are why we're special. That's not your closet. That's like a portal to another dimension. Behind our thin like veil of perception, there's a hidden magical world, just like waiting to be experienced. And so that idea has always appealed to me. And I think that public art has that same potential to change the everyday into something fantastic. And so that's always my goal when I'm working in the public space, whether it's on like a recycling truck or inside of an elevator shaft, on a window, in an alley, in a restaurant, even in like a commercial context, like at Whole Foods on a juice bottle. Or I've worked with Burton on snowboards, worked with Sam Adams with Converse. The context can change, but the idea remains the same. That with every project, we have the ability to take something ordinary and make it extraordinary. And so let's work together to do that. Let's build a place, let's build spaces where community can come together, where ideas can be shared, and where culture can be celebrated. Let's make something extraordinary.
Awesome job. Good job, man. Good job. So the things that are that make us different, make us special. Somebody should just pay you to paint that somewhere. It's incredible. It's good stuff.
I'm available, apparently. that's why I'm here.
Okay, so judges, who wants to kick off the conversation? Jim? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. You know what? When you thanked your mom first, I knew I had to work with you. That was outstanding.
Right on, thank you.
You're a gentleman.
Don't forget Mom.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You know,
That's your elevator.
that's
shaft,
my
I believe.
elevator
Yeah.
right there. So, you know, I'm all in at this point. You got
Awesome.
me. Anybody that could go into that elevator shaft that was 116 years old when we took that building apart and hang out there day and night and do what you did definitely has a work ethic. You've got a great mind. You're very talented. And I like what you do. I think that I have several opportunities that come to mind. One of them you've already worked on, but I think there's more to be done at that particular location that I may want to have you be a part of.
Great.
I've also got a public space component to a project that we have that's going to require you and I to go about it one of two ways. We can either get permission to do it, or we could just do it, and I'll pay for it. I think we're in a safe company.
I've done
here.
it
So,
both
yeah.
ways
So,
before.
and I'm kind of willing to go with the latter.
Awesome.
But at any rate, it's a large scale project. But you know, if we end up sharing a jail cell together, we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And we can feel good about what you're going to do. But I'm a big fan, and you know what? I hope I don't have a whole lot of competition here, but if I do, so be it.
I appreciate it.
So the adventures of JD and Jim coming out in 2018. Any questions from any of our other judges here?
Can you talk about some the range of environments that you work in, so we have a better sense of where we can place your work?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's all over the place. I mean, you know, every project is different, but I've worked with sort of developers like JBG, JLL. These ones are more, this one, that's in a restaurant in Chinatown called Honey Grow. That one's in the Hive Hotel, which is apparently the most popular hotel in DC. Yeah, this one on the top was for a restaurant in Shirlington that was opening, and that was just a window vinyl while they were doing the construction inside, because when you have like a huge window and you're doing construction, it's like, it looks bad. So the idea behind that one was to cover the window with sort of like an explosion of energy to announce this place is coming soon. These are posters in an alley. But so I've worked in, as I said, in multiple contexts, in multiple ways. Like some of these are painted, some of these are vinyl graphics, some of these are screen printed posters.
And is all the work in an abstract form? I'm trying to see if there's any kind of representational elements that...
For the most part, I mean, so like what I was talking about before about sort of, I'm trying to use, I don't use like like a superhero, like I wouldn't put like Spider-Man in a picture, because the idea, not that there's anything wrong with that, but the idea is that I want like you to be transported into that world. Like I want you to feel like Spider-Man or whatever, you know what I mean? It's, so they're landscapes using a vocabulary of sort of this comic book childhood, those ideas.
Yeah, that's incredible. I was going to ask you to make me into a superhero, but I guess that's out.
Yeah. Well,
JD, would you be willing to share sort of range of prices of this artwork so we can understand?
yeah,
generally by
I mean, it
size?
totally depends. So like the... Wow. Take it easy, Mom.
That's why it pays to bring Mom.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, all of these are within that $5,000 to $10,000 sort of window. It sort of depends, the context determines it. But so like these ones, this one that was vinyl, so they paid for the vinyl. So that window was 110 feet long by 7 feet high. So that was like, but that was like an $8,000 project because I didn't have to do, they paid me $4,000 to sort of design and like mock up each facet of the window, which was complicated because there were so many, but then they paid for the installment, so it was like 50-50. So what was that? Oh yeah, that was 18,000. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of, each project varies, but I guess the price is going up after that.
All right. So now that we've heard from our judges and Mom, would any of the other judges here like to go toe-to-toe with Jim to have a chance to work with JD here? Look, Jim looks like you scared them all.
Mom, let's go to bed.
All right, well, JD, congrats. Looks like you have a deal here with Jim, and we'll look forward to seeing the finished product here shortly.
Cool. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. I look forward to working with you. Yeah.
All right, so you saw that exchange between Jim and JD. So much of investing in entrepreneurs is about the relationship. It's about investing in the person as much as it's about investing in the finished product, whether the finished product is an art installation or a mobile application or a squatty potty on Shark Tank, whatever it might be. Building relationships and showing that you're a person that should be invested in is just as important as knowing your numbers and having your business development plan put together. So an incredible example of that. And again, for the artists and entrepreneurs in the room, please keep that in mind because that's something that I share with entrepreneurs all around the country as we're going around doing casting for Shark Tank. We are at the end of Art Tank 2017. We have one more artist that will pitch, and he's going to wow you. We certainly saved something significant for last. So the last artist to pitch at Art Tank 2017 is Hiroshi Jacobs. Come on out here, Hiroshi.
Thank you, judges. My name is Hiroshi Jacobs. I'm an artist and an architect living and working right here in Washington, D.C. I moved here in 2006, and since then I've seen an incredible transformation of the city, and you guys have been a big part of that, so thank you for your commitment and your contributions to our city. My passion is creating and activating vibrant urban spaces and making those places people want to be. I think it starts with people. People are what make our spaces what they are, what make them home. And I would like to work with you to transform one of your spaces into something that we can all be proud of. Oh. Next slide, please. I have been working in many mediums for a long time, and I've transformed many spaces into really great places. And I think one of the most interesting things about my work has been the fact that it's something that transforms an environment into something that somebody wants to interact with. I've started about 8 years ago working with art installations, practicing as an architect and thinking about design. And one of the most interesting things to me is thinking about how someone might interact with a space. And I use multiple mediums to create that interaction. In 2015, I worked with the Georgetown Bid to create a large outdoor light art installation for them for the 10-night Georgetown Glow event, which drew an estimated 12,000 people to Georgetown during the holiday season. They liked working with me so much that they invited me back in 2016 to do another installation, which is also a huge success. The thing that I found the most interesting about Georgetown Glow, next slide please, is that the thing that I found the most interesting was the reaction that people had to the art. The public really engaged with the art in a new way. What you see here on the left is just a few of a multitude, thousands of social media posts about the art installation at Georgetown Glow. And I think this is really indicative of how people view the art. They see it as a background for them to highlight their own individuality and their own experiences in life. And so this is what I want to do for you guys. I want to work with you to create an interactive and dynamic art installation that could transform one of your spaces into something, a place that people want to be and to really activate it. What you see here on the right is a quick rendering that I did to think about how this could potentially be done. But I'd like to work with you to try to transform one of your spaces, identify a place where this could work for you, and I hope we can make a deal. Thank you very much.
Incredible. So thank you so much, Hiroshi. That stuff looks incredible. It looks like spaces I would love to be in. I'd love to have that in my bedroom. Could you do that? Sure. Looks like you grabbed the mic first. You want to kick us off with questions, Martin?
Well, so I'm working with DDL, the 3 architects right now, actually, to take the pieces that you use at Georgetown Glow to put on a site on 9th Street, to reuse those, I guess for the 3rd time, because they originally were at the Building Museum, right?
That's right. Yes.
So that's exciting, and those will be up.
Those guys are actually friends of mine. I share a studio space with them. So.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right, cool. So a question for you, Hiroshi. If we were to do a piece that was in a space that, a kind of temporary space, and wanted to move that to a permanent space, are all of your pieces pretty easily able to be moved, or some of them harder than others?
Some of them are harder than others. Some of them can be moved. The Georgetown Glow event that I did the first year, it's now down in DuPont Underground. So we took it from there and moved it into the underground. But others are very site-specific, like the string art installations are built on site, and they're very site-specific, so it's a little bit harder to move those around.
Can you talk about some of these materials that you're working with?
So the 3 on the right are bungee cord, colored bungee cord installations. We found, I worked with a friend of mine on this series of installations, and we found that using string is a lot harder than using bungee cord in order to make something straight. So that elasticity really provides a lot of structure to the piece. And I think that idea of elasticity has transformed itself into other ways of thinking about art. The 2 pieces here in the middle are also elastic materials. It's spandex with lighting behind it. And then these are all, this is also spandex here. The piece on the upper left is all pinwheels. It's laser cut plastic pinwheels that are custom designed, and they form a 3-dimensional matrix that actually moves in the wind.
Okay, so I have been waiting for you because I've been saving my money, because when you presented, you have stellar credentials, but that wasn't it. When my son was growing up and was very young, he used to make elaborate traps. He grew up in a townhome in Mount Pleasant, and they'd go from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor, and they were with bungee cords. So when you said you were working with bungee cords, you took bungee cords to a whole new level. Can you go to the next slide? So one of this installation, the top right, is in a building that we developed called Eris. Could you tell me a little bit about it? Because you described it as furry and fuzzy. So I'm somewhat curious about 2 things. 1, does it look like a caterpillar? And 2, is there lighting involved, or what are we looking at in terms of this?
So the way that I thought about this piece was, I'm obviously interested in the patterns that are created through aggregation. You take an element and you repeat it in a different way thousands of times, you create an aggregation that creates an interesting pattern. But I think it's not enough for me anymore to just think about pattern, but also think about the kind of fuzzy nature of life in a way, and create something that is both pattern-based and also something that is a little bit more loose in a way. And so what I was thinking about here was a bungee installation that was covered in something like zip ties or something that could create, is also an aggregation, but it could create some sort of fuzzy connection between people, and it sort of allow people or sort of encourage people to interact with the art in a different way than just looking at it. Maybe they want to touch it.
And is this lit?
It could be lit. It doesn't have to be lit, but I think it would be actually very interesting to be lit. Recently, I've been working with lighting a lot more through the Georgetown Glow and other art installations, and I think it would be interesting to think about how lighting can play a role in sort of driving that interaction with people.
And how much does an installation like this cost? Wait,
So-
and you haven't been hanging out with JD's mother, I heard.
So 25,000. No, it really depends on the size. The bungee art that I created in the previous slides, those ranged anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000, depending on the size. The one in Boston was a lot bigger, and it was on the side of a building, so that was more expensive. Something like this in this size would probably be around the $5,000 range.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if anyone asks anyone in the audience about Art Tank, tell them it was lit. So, Hiroshi, it was great to see your presentation. Great questions from the judges. Who's interested in working with Hiroshi?
I'm interested.
You're interested? Anyone else interested? Martin, you're interested as well? Okay. Now, Hiroshi, do you have capacity to do 2 projects?
I'm looking for my wife. She's probably going to kill me. I think so. She said it's okay.
Okay.
You saved me because my management team told me to make sure that I came home with, apparently they've been trying to work with you for a while, so.
Thank you.
Okay, and I guess for the judges, I have to ask, either of you greedy, either of you want Hiroshi enough to box all the other judges out?
She's not.
This is a demonstration that despite the reputation developers may have, is we work really well together and with others.
That is definitely true. We've seen that today. All right, well, congratulations, Hiroshi. Looks like you have 2 projects coming up. And congratulations to the judges for getting the person you wanted. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing the finished product. Round of applause. Playing the music for me, apparently I'm supposed to pitch now. Well, thank you for joining us for the inaugural Art Tank here at the Vision DC Summit, again hosted by Cultural DC. I hope, give everyone a round of applause, give these artists a round of applause. Now, this is the first time we've heard or seen this concept conceptualized and executed anywhere. DC did it first. DC did it. It was lit, as Debbie said. DC has certainly done it the best. We're so excited to see the finished products from these artists and developers coming in the coming months and potentially years, just depending on the development cycle. Thank you all for joining us. Before we leave, Jim Abdo, who, as you all know, is very, very soft-spoken and doesn't have a whole lot to say, believe it or not, actually wants to share a few words with you before we leave today.
Well,
So,
it's
Jim,
not
come on up.
necessarily that I want to. I was asked to, so I want to qualify that. There is a difference. No, but look, I just want to reflect on this. First and foremost, I want to thank Tanya Hilton and everybody at Cultural DC for putting this on. Amazing event. I also want to acknowledge our friends at Arena Stage. I see board members here. This building itself is a work of art. I mean, Bing Tom was one of the great architects, certainly one of the best that I've ever met. He was just a brilliant guy, and we're actually sitting in art when we're here to experience this. But let me I've just sort of been reflecting on everything that I've observed here. And first of all, it's been an honor to be with such a great group of fellow developers. And I feel like, what you want to take away from this is what should the next steps be? Where do we go from here? And when I think about that, I think there's like 3 silos of responsibility that are out there. First and foremost, we're responsible. We're the business community. We are developers, and we're responsible for a lot of the built environment that happens here in our city. And with that comes a high level of sort of corporate responsibility.
we need to make the city better, and we need to be focused on that in everything that we do. And we do that when it relates to things like affordable housing and integrating the city, and we're passionate about that and passionate about the communities that we work in. And even the city itself is really focused on affordability. They're trying to come up with ways to be responsible in that way. But one of the things that we can't allow to sort of get pushed by the wayside that we need to be focused on is art and how we get art into this city everywhere. And it can't be overlooked. Unfortunately, you're with developers here that care about it, and I think our job as developers is to talk to our friends and other people that are in our industry and push this as well. The other thing that needs to happen is artists yourselves. What I saw here today was a real willingness and flexibility to work with the business community. And frankly, let's be fair here, not all artists really approach it that way. Some artists have a real intensity about poetic license, and they don't necessarily listen to the needs sometimes of what a developer or businesses need. What you saw here today was artists willing to work with developers, working to work with business community, and I really hope that other artists are seeing that, because at the end of the day, we want more opportunity for artists, and we want more art here in the nation's capital. And then lastly, organizations like Cultural DC, give them your support. These nonprofits that are here to help make art happen need your support. All of you have already done that by being out here today, so I applaud you. Enjoy the rest of the day, and thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you so much, Jim.